The Centauri quickly overcame their initial fear, particularly after discovering that the Minbari were a reclusive people who preferred isolation. All Centauri star charts were promptly redrawn, marking a clear no-passage zone around the Minbari Federation's territory. A few diplomatic overtures were made, but the Minbari's silent rebuffs were enough for the Centauri to abandon further attempts. They had plenty of other pursuits among the stars to occupy them. The Centauri's first priority became scavenging the ruins of the Garmak Empire. Everywhere Centauri salvage ships traveled in Garmak space, they encountered wrecked vessels and the remains of the Garmak. When they finally arrived at the Garmak homeworld, they were unsurprised to find it lifeless. The Minbari, indifferent to anyone who might come after them, had made no effort to destroy Garmak technology. Through their unapologetic plundering in Garmak space, the Centauri gained much knowledge. Chief among these lessons was never to provoke the Minbari, but there were other, more practical insights. The most valuable find from the Garmak archives was an interstellar portal. The Centauri swiftly decoded the plans and built their first jump gate. The advantages were immediately apparent. Within a decade, jump gates connected all Centauri colonies, allowing ships without crystal jump engines to travel from the homeworld to the farthest reaches of the Republic. This innovation sparked a boom in trade and a surge in population within imperial limits. The resulting revenue funded technological advancements, which in turn fueled ongoing exploration and colonization. Each new colony became a fresh market, perpetuating the cycle. The Centauri expanded outward from their homeworld and neighboring systems like an acquisitive, conquering virus. But as with any organism fighting a virus, the galaxy began to resist the Centauri. New civilizations posed greater threats, and although the Centauri never suffered a true defeat, they began to feel the strain of conquering new worlds at the pace demanded by Homeworld. To maintain their momentum, the Royal Navy expanded, relying on remote shipyards and captured, repurposed alien vessels. Among these acquisitions was the predecessor to the Kutai gunboat, a mainstay of the Garmak fleet. Several refurbished proto-Kutais entered Republic service as soon as they were space-worthy. Other ship designs were inspired by various alien races or constructed using the spoils of conquest. Over time, this led to a noticeable blending of styles in Centauri shipbuilding. By the later decades of this era, the Royal Navy's modern battlecruisers and carriers clearly reflected this mix of alien and Centauri influences. The Royal Navy also reorganized into 3 distinct fleets, a structure the Grand Centauri military maintains to this day. Each fleet was dedicated to a specific task, optimized in both force composition and equipment. The Navy became the Expeditionary Fleet, the Battle Fleet, and the Garrison Fleets. The Garrison Fleets returned to defend the core colonies and homeworld, while the Expeditionary and Battle Fleets ventured deeper into space to explore and conquer. Centuries had passed without insurrection or civil war among the Centauri. The enthusiasm that once unified the Republic in its journey to the stars had given way to a drive for wealth and prestige, which came to dominate the people's true motivations. The spirit of exploration transformed into a lust for conquest, and eventually devolved into a desperate need to cling to power and accumulate more. The true nature of Centauri nobility re-emerged as the noble houses began to fear that the fleets had become more powerful within the Republic than they themselves were. As in so many similar episodes throughout the Empire's history, this tension erupted into civil war. The conflict was brief, as the private fleets of the high houses were no match for the might of the Royal Navy. The nobles won only a few early skirmishes before the Navy coordinated its forces and tracked the origins of the surprise attacks. Once the Royal Navy had pinpointed the home bases of the attacks on their supply lines and forward units, the source of the problem was obvious. Cooler heads prevailed. Instead of attacking their own bases and colonies, the Navy simply blockaded the jump gates, preventing any trade from entering or leaving the noble-controlled systems. Since the nobles were fighting only to reassert their dominance, any threat to their power was too great to risk. The Civil War of CE 1680 dragged on only because of wounded pride. 2 high houses, Rifa and Varga, could not tolerate the Royal Navy's presence in their star systems. Rather than surrender, they combined their militaries and attempted to retake their territory by force. The resulting debacle left several ships damaged, more than 100 crewmen dead on both sides, and a single battlecruiser destroyed. This marked the end of the Civil War and the last act of ambition the imperial throne could tolerate. Both houses were hit with heavy fines, losses of personal property, and a sharp decline in status. Worse still, they were required to donate their own troops and ships to replenish the Royal Navy, making their punishment even more costly. House Reefer weathered these losses better than House Varga, which was nearly bankrupted by the imperial decree and survived only with aid from allied houses. This harsh blow to two of the Empire's most powerful houses sent a clear message to their peers. The Centaurum would tolerate no further interference with Centauri dominance in the stars. The Republic was prepared to crush any alien resistance it encountered, and just as ready to eliminate internal rivalries that threatened to destabilize everything it had built. As the Empire expanded into space, holding its territory would require the cooperation of all within the Republic. Those unwilling to work with the Crown would be swept aside. The Centauri's dominion waned after the Civil War of CE 1680. Their decline stemmed not from military defeats or diplomatic failures, but from the egos of the high houses. Resentful of the Centaurum's protection of its interests in the Royal Navy, often over the nobility, the high houses fueled discord. Even unity for further conquests could not convince them to yield authority, not even to the emperor. Politics proved a greater obstacle than any alien military or the challenges of space travel. The tangled web of inter-house alliances and rivalries was more complex than hyperspace itself. As the high houses and some commoner organizations were granted limited self-government in distant systems, the Navy's reliance on timely support in these regions diminished, setting the stage for deeper internal discord. No house wanted to empower the Royal Navy. Centauri ambition turned self-destructive. Supply lines, secure from alien enemies, fell to internal sabotage through false orders, altered data, and raids by private house forces. Not all were involved, but the chaotic era makes innocence hard to prove. Fittingly, the Centauri's own pride finally silenced the Lion of the Galaxy and ended their true dominance of the stars. Though this period did not mark the Republic's ultimate turning point, that would come later, the fractured trust between the Royal Navy and the houses became the first chink in the once impenetrable armor of the Republic. Thus, the First Republic faltered, undone by its own internal turmoil. Pride always precedes a fall, but nothing falls without first rising. The Centauri, time and again, proved capable of enduring defeat and emerging stronger. The hard lessons learned from the Con were deeply etched into the Republic spirit, shaping every conquest since those dark days. Yet in this era, the Republic reeled from internal decay, politics corroding its very core. Such a deep-seated sickness demanded radical measures, the kind that brought pain and sacrifice. For 50 years, the tug-of-war between the Centaurum's guidance and the nobility's ambitions held the Republic in a holding pattern. At times, the wisdom of the Centaurum and the Emperor steered the Republic toward progress and new gains among the stars. In other years, pride and conflict allowed systems to slip free and reclaim independence, perpetuating the cycle of internal struggle. This enduring power struggle left the Empire unable to truly judge its own strength. Sometimes, inflated field reports made it seem as if the Centauri might not actually deploy, while at other times, excessive force was used to suppress trouble spots, where finesse would have sufficed. These missteps hindered the Centauri's grace among the stars but, paradoxically, also kept rival races off balance and wary. The Centauri Republic now ruled over 100 worlds. Each provided Centauri populations, resources, or strategic advantages. Their domain was vast. No ship could cross a quarter of the known galaxy without entering it. This vast dominion came at a steep price in manpower and oversight. Fringe worlds, bordering other races and rival powers, were always vulnerable to raids and subversion. The Royal Navy adapted to these challenges. Its first major reform was to expand the expeditionary fleet into system control groups that served as auxiliaries to the garrisons. Once the expeditionary fleet explored and settled, most flights became secondary battle squadrons, securing new systems until garrison fleet detachments could take over. The next reform was deeper. The Imperial Palace authorized telepaths to serve as ranked officers on starships, gathering intelligence. Each new system yielded valuable knowledge, but conventional methods failed. Telepaths met this need, though their presence only increased the High House's anxiety over the Navy's growing power.